All right, boys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gio if you are new here, and every day I teach you guys why the market moves the way that it does so that you can have confluence and confidence with your trades. Today, I want to talk about Bitcoin because I think that I have a good idea as to what may happen here on Bitcoin, and I want to go over it because I'm not going to be here for the next couple of days, and I don't want to leave you guys in the dark. Before we begin, if you like the content, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Next week, when I'm back from Miami, I will be returning to YouTube full-time, 2 to 3 streams a week perhaps, and making more videos. And as a result, I need to get my algorithms up. So if and only if I earn your like, please consider hitting that like button. It really helps me a lot. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Okay, I can continue to make videos like this for you if of course I get that support. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about what's been happening, and let's talk about what I'm looking at and what I think might happen next, okay? Before we begin as well, real quick, sorry, I know I'm doing a lot of before we begins, but I am a if this, then this trader, okay? I'm not here to tell you with 100% certainty that this option or that option is going to play out. I don't know. It's all probabilities, but I do want to give you a little glimpse as to what I'm seeing here. And if this happens, then I will do this. If this happens, then I will do that. Do not marry any of these ideas, okay? All right, so we're on Bitcoin, okay? Let's go to the 1 hour time frame. What's the situation with the situation on Bitcoin? I have maintained a bullish bias overall ever since we swept this low. Why? Because we have low, we have high, we have lower low. You have an SFP of that lower low, and you confirm that SFP by getting a lower time frame market structure flip. However, big however, this follow through is very lackluster. This week's range was the absolute worst price action I have ever seen in my entire trading career. This was the worst week I've ever seen it. It was weird. It was like, what the hell is going on? They weren't taking the highs. They weren't taking the lows. Everything looked like shit. And now we're here, okay? So the technical target for this SFP is technically 95K. Now, there's two problems. Number one, not problems, but number one, how do we get there is the question. Do we go just straight up, or do we have zigs and zags along the way? Well, that's what we're going to talk about right, in this video. Number two is just because you SFP'd this low and you got that confirmation, remember, nothing in trading is definitive. That does not mean that you're going to rotate up here necessarily first. You could be putting in a higher low, or you could be putting in a lower low, which once again, we are going to discuss. Okay, so what's happening right now? Well, we are actually in a very important supply zone. We've been in this supply zone, and Bitcoin has struggled to break through this supply zone the entirety of the week. We've been looking for shorts in this area. We have taken some shorts in this area. We've taken some longs in this area as well. However, we're in a high time frame short zone, okay? Now, what is your expectational order flow? To understand that, you need to follow the structure. So what's your structure from the low to the high? You have low. We're going to skip some stuff that doesn't matter. You have high, you have higher low, and you have higher high, okay? This is very important because what this is telling you, what structure is telling you right now, is that price is allowed to come all the way back down to 83K while still remaining bullish. You're even allowed to SFP that low. Do I like SFPing the low? Absolutely not. But you're able to do that while still remaining bullish and still heading up to one of my take profits for my swing long. Sorry, I hiccuped in your ear right here, which is at 90K. Okay, I do believe that we can see a 90K Bitcoin. I absolutely believe that. I absolutely believe that we can make our way up to the 95K swing target for this area, but it's all, in my opinion, depends on what happens in this zone over here. Why? Right now, long story short, we are looking for potentially that higher low to then make that higher high into, at the very least, 90K. At that point, I'll have to consider what, how did we get there? What is price action doing? The new data that comes to me in real time, I'll have to decipher it. So don't put shorts here and, whatever. But my point is we're scoping out for that higher low to then make the higher high. Now, I want to talk about this range before we talk about these lower zones, okay? I did not get this long off the bottom. Why? It did not hit my zone. I'm fully well aware that I have two zones right now. One of those zones I like better than the other, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Remember, hit the like button, okay? But we didn't actually do anything besides sweep some very internal liquidity on this move to the downside. Now, you may argue, well, Gio, you always talk about accumulations, and you always talk about 3 taps to the low, and you have those 3 taps to the low, so why are you still talking about lower? And my response to you would be, you're absolutely correct. We do have 3 taps to the low, and this could effectively be a reaccumulation to send you higher and leave these zones behind, okay? If that happens, then for me, it sucks to suck. I'm not going to be in a new position on Bitcoin. I can always scalp it. I need to start seeing some strength. I need to see us get basically above this range. Perhaps you break above the range. You can short at 90K-ish, and then you backtest that range, or maybe at that point you SFP and hit this zone and then go higher. Again, that's all at order flow. We'll have to discuss it. But I want to talk about the potential of this range actually failing its accumulation, okay? Because what I'm seeing right now is, and I don't know, you guys can let me know in the comments down below. For me, literally everybody is so off the wall bullish right now. It's not even funny. Like, it's crazy how much they flipped. And I think that retail right now, I imagine, is drawing this bull flag and, you know, taking the stick part of it and moving it to here and saying your target is up to there and blah, blah, whatever that retail does. And I want to just open your eyes to this idea, okay? So take a look at this range. Now let's go on the daily time frame and let's go take a look at the 2020 or 2024 range that we had. It doesn't look so different, right? It's still that bull flag thing. You had potentially, however you want to interpret it, you know, maybe 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 taps to the low, and then you had another drop to the downside. I don't really trade fractals. I'm not showing you this so that, you know, I can say, oh, this is a fractal and we're trading it 1-to-1. But it's just to show you that sometimes what appears to be accumulations actually end up failing you. And they fail you when they have reason to fail, okay? Why does structure in general fail you? When you have reason for it to fail. And when you have a block below or liquidity below that it missed, those are the instances in which it happens. So what's the situation right now? Well, like I said, I'm a very if-then trader. And I'm going to Miami for the weekend, so I'm not going to be scalping anyway. That being said, I want to bring your attention to these two zones in the event that Bitcoin does end up failing its 1, 2, 3 tap accumulation and ends up rotating to the downside. What I'll be looking for, what are my entry positions, what are my targets, and what are my triggers, my entry triggers, okay? So I have 2 boxes, okay, if you want to note them. One is between 85.5 and 84.8, give or take, okay? That box is a good box, but my favorite one is between 84.2 and 83.6. Okay, why is this my favorite box? There's 3 reasons. Number 1, actually 4 reasons. Number 1, like I said, everybody right now seemingly is aggressively bullish. Aggressively bullish. It's like, I'm telling you, this week, somehow, in the midst of a whole bunch of, I don't know why people say nothing burger. Maybe I missed that part of, maybe I skipped that day of school, but nothing burgerness of this week. This range caused everybody to get so aggressively, stupidly bullish. It's not even funny. So that's number 1. And I do think that max pain would be that everybody that's drawing this bull flag gets faked out and it goes to the downside before it breaks up. Okay, that's number 1. Why else do I like these zones? Number 2, that you have a formed range here. Okay, you had a nice accumulation here, and the point of control of that accumulation resides in the lower block. That's 2. The third reason is your entire range point of control resides in that block. That's 3. And the fourth reason, I don't remember at the current moment, but that's okay because 3 should be enough. Okay, that's already good confluence. So you got 3 reasons why we could come down. Okay, if you do come down, instead of breaking up like everybody is suspecting, right? You are going to be forming beautiful liquidity to the upside. And like I said, you have to keep in mind where you are in the macro of it. You have this SFP, which is targeting here. Remember what I said in the beginning of the video, in the intro? Not in the intro, but how do you get to that point? How do you get from A to B is the money question, because you're not going to just go in one move, right? Especially for scalpers, you could take advantage of all these moves. How do we get there? I believe that there is not necessarily a good potential, but I think that faking this flag to the downside, getting everybody that's so aggressively bullish out of their bullish mentality, right? Dumping it down. Everyone right now, what do ranges do? It generates liquidity. Believe it or not, we are generating a lot of liquidity now beneath this low because people are thinking that that's the low because, hey, we're in a bull flag, right? So fake the flag down, break it down, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen with 100% certainty, but I'm saying if this happens, then this is what I'll be doing. And then, you know, perhaps you'll get a reaction off of this top block. If you see a nice structure flip here, I would enter. Let's just say 5-minute market structure flip, maybe 10. I would consider an entry here, but it all depends on how we get into that zone. It all depends on how price looks. If we fall aggressively down here, I probably wouldn't take it, especially if we do something like this. If you fall aggressively and then you go pop, 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 oh, I would absolutely be looking for another move to the downside like that to hit this zone. I do believe this is a very strong looking zone. And I do believe that, like I said, your expectational order flow is to go higher. But the question becomes, how much higher? Now, if you can see this line here, I say reassess if lost. Okay, this was a line that we had placed in the Nexus earlier in the beginning of the week. And I said, look, if you like, this is really bad if you start to lose this low. And that's why I said I didn't actually prefer, I'm going to hide the structure. I didn't actually prefer that we SFP that low. Why? Because you have so much liquidity that you can take to the downside in the event that you start failing structure here. That is important because remember what I said in the beginning of the video. Your second tap will dictate whether or not, for the most part, you will have a third tap as a higher low or a third tap as a lower low. What I'm hoping for is your third tap, give or take, depending on how much we expand in this range and the age of this range. Remember, I was pretty much, at least that I know of, the only content creator that was saying max pain is sideways while everybody else is pointing straight up or straight down. I think max pain is literally sideways, and I think we're going to continue to range for at least a couple months. Could be wrong, but we'll see. Anyway, so we're monitoring where our third tap is, right? Is your third tap going to be here in your accumulation, or is your third tap going to be a lower low? And the fact that we have all this liquidity and the fact that we have this like really kind of shitty looking follow through leads me to believe that, you know, in the event that you start losing this low, I don't really have any levels, guys, between 83 and 78. So that $5,000 move, I'm not going to be looking for any longs there unless, of course, we start to range here. Then yes, you can play the local range. However, I think that if you lose that low, you might actually end up just getting a straight shot down, and it's because of that liquidity. So you really don't want to lose that, okay? So for that reason, I'm looking at potentially this flag to fake out, okay? If it fakes out and it goes to the downside, I will be looking for longs in those zones that we discussed earlier. And if you don't, then, you know, I think we're going to fall to 78, if not lower, right? You might actually end up taking the range low. So that's something that you need to take note of. This is the probability game that we discussed. You got to know what your odds are, okay? Now, in the event that you do end up going higher, here's my scenario. I like around 90K to 91K-ish, okay? Why do I like this area? Number one, you have a 10-minute block hiding in plain sight. Number two, you have a daily level there. You have your down volume point of control of the entire range there. And you have a naked weekly point of control there, okay? Now, there's a problem with this idea. The problem is, remember, what's your expectational order flow? If you get this SFP and this SFP confirmed and we are destined to come to 95K, how do we come to 95K is the question. And what I think would happen right now, if we do not take this low again that we made today, and we do just pop up and we hit this zone, what I'm thinking that's going to happen is, remember, let's follow our structure. When in doubt, structure out. You have high, you have low, you have higher high, you have lower low, then you would have a higher high, okay? Well, what do you expect? You're expecting a higher low to then make a higher high. However, when do we know if structure will fail you? And it's when you have reason to, when you have zones that were left behind, as I indicated in that 2024 range. By the way, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about this entire video, in the Nexus, which is my VIP network and my VIP Discord that includes the course that I have out, I teach you all this, okay? So link for that in the description down below. Consider joining, okay? Anyway, if you do hit 90-ish K, then I will be looking for shorts down to, depending on how we get there, depends on what the structure entails, okay? But I would suspect at that point, you might end up getting an SFP of this already very shitty low volume range. I would suspect you might SFP it into one of these two zones. And so I would be looking for a scam wick to hit either here or here. Okay, and remember, I prefer the lower one. Now, here's where the big problem comes into play. Let's just say that this, what you see on the screen right now happens, except you break structure to the downside, you don't SFP. This to me is indicating that you're going to rotate all the way back down to this low, okay? To this low. So why? First of all, why? Well, like I said, you have you have a bunch of liquidity, right? You have a lot of liquidity. The moment this yellow structure fails you, the target automatically, like this 95K target gets disqualified, and we are now targeting this again. Why? because your primary upward structure has now failed you and it's pointing down. And remember, you left a lot that you can come for. And what happens when you leave a lot that you can come for? Mass liquidations, and especially when everybody and their grandmother is aggressively bullish at the time. Okay, so I know I'm presenting a lot of scenarios to you right now, but this is how I trade. I'm a probability-based trader. If this happens, then I do this. If that happens, then I do that. And so I will be looking for 90K short, give or take. If we can make it up there, it's also a psychological number. And again, if we have demand zones along the way, then of course I will take profit there and I will look for that continuation long to potentially 95K, because, that's where your trend is pointing towards right now. However, if you fail those zones, whichever zones you might create along the way, I don't know because the data is not out yet. If you fail those zones, then and you start closing below here, then at that point, the expectation is lower high, lower low. And I do think that we're going to make our way down to this level, down at 76K at the very least. Okay. And potentially, essentially putting in our third tap as a Model 1 potential accumulation down to the low. Well, oh yeah, remember how I had 4 reasons as to why I like this zone better than the other one? I just remembered the last one. The last one is that we have our CME gap there, okay? Your CME gap fill is down at 84K, basically on the dot, okay? So what am I going to be doing? Because I'm going to be in Miami going to Ultra. Shouts out to Ultra. And what am I going to be doing? I am going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not scalping right now, and I'm not scalping on the weekend, and I don't really trade weekends anyways, because usually weekend volume sucks, with the exception of last weekend. And it's funny because this week sucked, but the weekend was good. It kind of flipped. What am I going to be doing? I'm not trading right now, and I'm definitely not trading this range anymore. If we SFV this high, I will be looking for shorts, okay? If we make it up to 90K, I will be looking for shorts. And if we do come down first, then I will be looking for longs. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to set very loose leverage, very small positions in anticipation of catching a knife potentially while I'm like raving, okay? That I'm going to have limit orders like this, okay? My stop loss is probably going to be somewhere here. If I like what I see, okay? I don't want you to like zoom in on the screen, find out where these numbers are, pause it, and put limit orders. No, don't do that because I might not actually do it, but it depends on how things are looking before I go to my festival, before I get on the plane, right? But that's what I'm going to be looking at, and I'm going to be basically looking for this, right? Something like that or something like this, okay? I'm monitoring it. I'm watching it. Right now, we do not have good follow-through even off of this SFP. No different than we do not have good follow-through off of this SFP. You know, look at the difference when you get a nice SFP. Like, look at this follow-through versus what we've been getting in this area here, okay? So things are undeniably not as bullish as they once were, but the sentiment appears to be more bullish than they were. So that's what I'm looking at on Bitcoin. Of course, I will be monitoring USDT dominance alongside Bitcoin because they work inversely correlated. And, I'm the king of USDT. Like, we haven't really missed on it as of late. And, people don't know that that's the, that's like a secret weapon is USDT. You don't need like really indicators. You just need to know how to chart and know how to inversely correlate whatever asset you are charting against USDT. Anyways, that is my update on Bitcoin. So I presented a lot of scenarios. Okay, we have bullish scenarios, we have bearish scenarios. We're going to see how price progresses. I will tell you this with absolute certainty is I am so over this range already. And that's the point. Like I said, I think that max pain is sideways. So we'll see what ends up happening here. My favorite scenario is we fake this flag to the downside. We hit 84. Then from here, we hit 90. Then we come back maybe to like 88. Then we come up to 94, 95. And then if we get the same thing that we got up here, down here, if we get this up here, then I'm looking for swing shorts basically down to potentially, you don't know, potentially 76K. Definitely to sweep some of this liquidity. If you come all the way, if you just keep creeping up and you leave zones behind and you do this, yeah, I'm looking to swing short that down as far as I can. Potentially to the discount section of the range, potentially down to the range low, potentially down to like 70K, because yes, that is possible. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. If you like the content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I don't even know what's playing. My glasses just started playing. I have no idea why that just started playing. But anyway, that's the situation, guys. I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Trade safe. Be good.